Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics,
And
this is a total retake of a show we already recorded.
They don't need to know that.
They need to know that.
God,
They need to know that we're pulling the curtains back on the process here.
We're so transparent.
We are talking again about what a great film, what a magical film, what a delightful film La La Land is.
La La Land is so powerful that it got us to reminisce about musicals.
Yeah, we can certainly reminisce about them, but I think it warrants a conversation itself. The movie came out, end of the year.
Yeah.
And sort of just really took over everyone's best of lists, including mine, which we'll talk about shortly. But it is, I guess the conversation revolving around a lot is, will it revive the musical?
Yeah, and when we have talked about this, you've been cautious because much like Westerns, even though I will point out Westerns that have come out recently, you're going to point out to me they're not an abundant number. And
yeah, they're echoes, they're reverberations. I like the analogy to an after image. Like when you look at something really bright and you close your eyes and you can still see it on the back of your eyelids.
Yeah.
That's what happens with Westerns. That's what happens with musicals. I think that they are, for the most part, the genres are gone, dead and buried. But every once in a while, you get this beautiful memory of one.
Sure.
And this is that. It's funny. First of all, this movie opens with a tremendous number on the 401?
Yeah. I don't know. It's the 401 leading the 105. I don't know. It's all a jumble of numbers to me, but it is an expressway that is at a dead stop.
It's big, it's bright, it's colorful. The colors in this movie are great. It wallops you from frame one.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the best openings ever in the history of cinema.
Wow.
Wow. That's right next to my opening of Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. Where the prince and the soldiers are coming back home. Right?
I thought you were going to say something like Apocalypse Now. Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. This is what's lodged in your memory as one of the great openings in cinema.
It is. Anyway, so La La Land. And I think at this point it's certainly at the top of my list too, though we're not doing any predicting today. We're just saying when you look at good films like Manchester, Moonlight, Hell or High Water, you and I are both suggesting this is even better than those films.
Oh yeah, this is a really just utterly from the start, just hypnotic, confectionery, pleasurable sweetness. I don't know how to put it. I don't also want to just belabor the fact that it's poppy and upbeat. There is this streak of bittersweet.
I like it.
Romance.
You're right.
Running through it.
One of the things that makes me a real believer in this movie is that everything doesn't turn out the way you might have expected, and that's where I see the difference.
Yeah.
I know we might we may not agree on this, but I think that the movies of the 50s, such as Singing in the Rain and so on, all predictably turn out well.
Yeah.
Okay, and while I don't want to spoil it for anybody, I want to say this turns out realistically.
Right. Okay. Let me say this, that we're talking about other musicals, right?
Right.
First of all, Singing in the Rain is one of the great achievements. Yeah. There's a movie came out in 1977 called New York, New York.
Oh, good for you. Oh,
and directed by Scorsese.
Yeah.
Starring De Niro and Liza Minnelli.
Oh, good.
The film for which we have to thank for the song New York, New York, the Frank Sinatra anthem. That movie was Scorsese's attempt to do just this in some ways. Basically take the classic Hollywood musical, namely the ones of the 50s that are so upbeat and joyous, and end exactly as you want them to end, Singing in the Rain. And then turn it on its head and take a couple who is combative, who are at creative odds, who are heading in different directions in their lives, and then pitting them against each other in this really is a heartbreaking, brutal romance. That movie has some. That movie pulls no musical punches,
And and I have
in
to,
a way that I think La La Land does a little bit.
Oh, right, and I think you make a great point. I look back in just the recent times and think of Moulin Rouge in 2001, which has a hard edge to it when you consider what happens to her,
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman character. And I'm thinking about Chicago, and I suspect it ended well. But you know me in endings.
Yeah,
So
you
help
don't
me
like
out.
them.
Well, I just don't.
Or you
I
fall
don't pay
asleep by
attention
the,
to them.
by
I
the
know
time
it.
we get to
I
them.
know whatever it is. So I don't know. I presume that.
I'm not a fan of Chicago, so I don't really know.
Well, just because you're not a fan, you can't.
I don't remember.
Oh, this one you don't remember.
You are a fan and you don't remember. Why are you holding me accountable for not remembering?
Just because you remember everything. The one thing where I need help.
And they all go
you
to
can't
jail.
remember it.
Richard Gere tap dances, and they all go to jail.
That's great.
Don't remember.
All right, look at what started all this.
La La Land.
No, what started all this interest in musical art and our culture? Where did it all begin?
I would imagine it goes back to the beginning of time.
Well, how about the jazz singer?
Oh, well, yeah, the jazz singer, the very first sound film.
I think so. Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, obviously, it has its roots in musical theater that preceded
you bet.
sound film. But obviously, once we could mic up our actors, our performers, and capture them on film, it was the very first thought that crept into filmmakers' heads were, let's make them sing.
Yeah. And when you get into the Busby Berkeley extravaganzas
Yeah.
and many others, I don't think there's another one with as big a wallop as 1939, The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, The Wizard of Oz, man, which does not feel like a musical.
It doesn't. You're right. I mean,
You know, and that's sort of, when you talk about musicals, you get into this, continuum, this grayscale, right? You get musicals like West Side Story that are big, brash, characters burst into song at certain points. You get musicals like you had just mentioned, Moulin Rouge, which are all pull from classic pop hits. There's nothing is written for the movie. Back in the early days, you had Cole Porter scoring movies for Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Oh yeah,
Irving Berlin.
Yeah,
all the great American songwriters.
You take Top Hat,
Mm-hmm.
can't be beat.
Right, and those movies are kind of interesting. They are more like La La Land musicals in that characters don't necessarily burst into song. The music is actually emanating oftentimes from the world of the movie.
Yeah. What about Mary Poppins?
Love Mary Poppins.
And
delightful.
How do you think it fits? It is a formula, isn't it, for the musical? Don't you think? I mean, there's so many songs in there.
Yeah, so many great songs.
Yeah. And you make an important distinction as to whether they're just there as set pieces or whether they in fact are integral to the story.
Obviously, the answer to this question is that a great musical is driven by the music.
Yes.
The music either pushes along the story or it tells us something about the interiority of the character, something that's happening. I mean, in La La Land, the best example is Emma Stone's audition. She goes to this audition.
What a great scene.
And the camera pulls back, the scene gets really dark, she's sort of starkly lit in the center of the screen, and then she relates this song, which is a part of her life. And that is a beautiful moment. There is not actually a whole lot of singing in La La Land.
No, and in fact, it really tapers down
Yeah.
after half the film.
Right.
It's almost
there's
gone.
a couple of big numbers, then there's some incidental music, and then there's the number I just referred to, and that's pretty much it. Music is woven throughout the film and is integral to how the characters are interacting.
No, you're right. Now, we have talked before, my favorite musical of all time is about 1942, and it's called Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah, James Cagney as
as
George M. Cohan, right? I know you love that. You love that number one because it's James Cagney, most famous at that time for playing a gangster, a hard-nosed, tough-talking, scrappy inner city gangster, and nobody, not a lot of people knew what an accomplished dancer and singer.
And very much like Christopher Walken.
Yeah,
Was
exactly.
And if you remember, I was kayaking with some people in South America,
Hmm.
and one was a dancer from the Dallas troupe, and he and I got talking about movies, and he told me that for professional dancers, their favorite movie dancer was Jimmy Cagney.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's good. It's
that's
just the way he moves
right.
is terrific.
Then my other one. I don't know. How do you feel about this one? People hardly praise it as a musical, but I love it. Paint Your Wagon.
I knew you were going to lead me in there. I love Paint Your Wagon. A huge, big budget fiasco at the time. It was a huge fiasco. Clint Eastwood coming off of the spaghetti westerns and Rawhide and gunning for American stardom. It's amazing that he survived the misstep. That's a testament to what a powerful on-screen figure he was. Not a bad singer, not a great singer either. But the comedy musical Paint Your Wagon, it's a musical about bigamy. And
but it certainly didn't hurt the career of
Lee Marvin. It didn't. Lee Marvin, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say it again. I know we talked about it already. Lee Marvin has one of my favorite musical numbers in all of Hollywood musical history. It's Wandering Star.
Oh, it's mine too.
It's just beautiful. It's that talking singing, and he's got that deep, husky baritone.
Gosh, his baritone.
And it's raining, and characters. There's this exodus of people behind him, and he's moving in the opposite direction, singing this song about moving in his own direction according to the whims of his fancy. It's beautiful to me. Yeah, but a huge flop at the time.
But it's as I think about it, our animations are probably furthering the musical.
I think without us knowing it.
Yeah.
Because when it's animated, we just expect it.
Right.
We know, and I think sometimes adult moviegoers sort of casually distance themselves from animated films as much as some of them have jokes tailored for us. You watch a movie, an animated film, you're just not, let's be honest, you're just not tuning into it as tightly as you might when it's a real movie.
The best current example of that is Sing.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sing, but we recently watched Moana.
Oh yeah.
And that has some really great songs.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And it's a fun movie. It's great.
And Sing is more traditionally they're putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
They have to save the theater, and so it has a lot of the tropes from the old movies. But anyway, that's
there you go. Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone giving us an end of the year present that you gotta unwrap immediately.
La La La.